All right, everyone, and welcome back to the daily market wrap up. Again, if you're not getting this via email and you want access to all of the charts that I put out, a whole bunch of charts that I don't, go to statsedgetrading.com, sign up for the email list there. And if you're interested in any of the trading platforms you see me use, also at statsedgetrading.com. So without further ado, let's start with Bitcoin like we always do. Nice, this is from yesterday, the tight ranging action under resistance, and that's still true today. I can remove that downtrend line, but you can see we hit this resistance and now we're just kind of chopping around in that area. And to be honest, that's what you kind of want to see if you're a bull on the cryptocurrencies. You want to see a nice kind of push up and then this sideways consolidation. They're not able to push it down very much. So that's some really good action to see on Bitcoin. So sorry, I'm going to look over here every now and then, just talk about, well, the other thing I want to talk about is gold. So we talked about how gold, I took a couple bounces off this. It never really got over this anchored view up from the high. So when we broke down on gold, right, I was obviously out everything. Now we had these failed bounce, and this kind of looks like continuation lower. So if we can short a little bit of gold under this kind of 1910 area, that might be a trade that I look to take. Stop at 1932, and then right, if we can get a flush into this area right here, that's the trade I want to take. So relative weakness here on gold and a little bit of a breakdown here as well. So let's get into trade ideas, and let's start here with the SPY. So the note that I wrote, and again in the email I write just a little couple sentences about my thoughts overall in the market. But for anyone who's followed this for any length of time, know I was talking about this August high right here and the resistance that acted as way back here. And again, an obvious resistance, right? Came up to it, sold off immediately. You don't have to squint to see that resistance. And that's how I treat support resistance areas. I don't want to mess with anything. I just want to see a big push up and then kind of a pull down as well. And then we touched that exactly and then bounced pretty strong today, up over 1% on the S&P 500. So really good action there on the SPY. So that actually led to some interesting breakouts in some sectors that we got to keep an eye on. So, the whole, it's only tech or only AI, that's kind of completely disproven now. But just some sectors I wanted to kind of put your attention to. One is XHB, right? So we had a nice breakout here on XHB. You can see we don't have much resistance till way back here. But a nice breakout there on XHB, which is our home builders, going a bit wild today. Also Jets, JETS, which is, basically just UAL, DAL, airlines, that kind of stuff. Massive breakout on double normal volume, which is quite significant for an ETF. So again, just some wild action here on things that aren't tech. So, we had the tech push. AI was pushing, that was kind of bringing everything up. And now we have these other sectors catching up. And one thing I always talk about, not just myself, most technicians, is that in bear markets, the laggards pull down the leaders. So you always want to try to be investing in the relative strength names. In bull markets, the leaders will actually pull up the laggards sometimes. And that's kind of what we're seeing, which is very, very interesting for bull market behavior. Last but not least, just an update. People are always asking an update on this KRE trade. I bought a little bit as it broke out of 40 right here. Came back in. I mentioned on one of these videos that, hey, if we can find support at this anchored VWAP, I'll add some. I picked some up yesterday, and it looks like we're bouncing off that. So kind of my new stop out would be a close in this area right here. So if we come back down and we close in that area, it's time to get out. But I'm trading around this position where I'm buying some and taking some off and buying some, because really what I want to do is I want to be able to hold a chunk of KRE or regional banks. I want to hold that chunk and just say, okay, now that I have a little bit of regional banks, now I can just kind of say, okay, that's good. Now let's put that aside somewhere. I've made enough from trading around that position that I'm okay just holding that position, because if regional banks aren't going to go to zero, then eventually you're going to see this thing back up right into the 60s or the 70s or even the 80s. So that would be a double on a really kind of a safe ETF that I can just put aside in like retirement account kind of things, and just let it go. So that's my goal here with this particular trade, is to work around the position well enough that I'll be very confident if things go, that I can just hold some and kind of go from there. So into some individual names. So again, you can see I have a lot here that I go through. There's a screenshot for every single one of these. If you sign up at statsidetrading.com to the email list, you can see all of them, but I only go over a few. So PDCO, I bought a little bit today. The idea was that I posted a couple days ago that it's holding the anchored view up from before this level and looking for it to pop up. That was great. SYNA, I actually not even did that with you guys, but I actually talked about this on Trader TV. So you anchor a VWAP from the low. This is a new strategy that I'm playing with. And then you wait to make sure that it bounces off that low. And then that's where you take it. We bounced off that low, so I took some of that as well. So the idea is simply, instead of catching a falling knife, you wait for the low to be put in, you anchor to VWAP from there, and then you take a play. And this one here, SKY, is the same kind of thing, right? We had a big gap down, a little bit of a volume flush out. So you had that kind of capitulation bottom, came up from there, came back, that like right to the tick. It held that anchored VWAP and then started to push higher. So I bought some of that as well. And then THO, I just pat myself in the back a little bit. THO was one that we talked about a little bit ago, and I bought some in this area right here, and that's a massive trade, 5% on that one. Been a couple. Mara, this one's been on the list for a week or so now. I'm up 40% on that Mara position. Again, just I don't do it often, like to pat myself in the back a little bit. So some things that I've added, there was two names, but I do want to talk about this LMND. Right, this anchored VWAP from before the gap is something that I'm just obsessed with as a new scan that we have in Trade Ideas. Again, go to statsidetrading.com for that one. But it's on this name in particular, this is now the 4th or 5th day that we're kind of fighting this anchored VWAP. So if we can get a push from there with a 26% short, I like the look on that one. So the two that I added to the list today is LQDA. And the idea is, this is a new scan that's going to go live in the anchored VWAP product soon. But the idea is, instead of just looking for a large gap or a big swing low or something, it searches for these massive volume spikes. So you can see how much, this thing normally does like 500,000 shares, and here it did 3 million. Pulls back to $9 where that area is and then bounces off. Last one, and I think this came from the same scan, is Datadog. And again, you can see this massive volume, good gap too, so that may have counted, but massive volume on this day right here. Big push up, and now it's been pulling back to that anchored VWAP. And then we have this downtrend line right here. So if that downtrend line breaks, that's where I'll get some. Stop, worst case scenario, is under this anchored VWAP. So thank you, everyone, for coming by. That's it for today. Again, go to statsidetrading.com, sign up for the email list. You'll get these emailed directly to you. I don't spam with anything else. It's just, hey, here's my analysis. And thanks, everyone, for coming out. I'll talk to you tomorrow.